Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I am your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. And today on the show, we have Tyler Bliha, CEO and founder of Abode. Tyler's going to share all about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and maybe some challenges that he's faced on the way. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this one. Well, welcome, Tyler. It is so nice to meet you. Thanks for
Yeah,
being on
thanks for
the
having me
show.
on. Thank you
Of
for having me. I'm excited to be here.
of course. Well, I'd love to hear a little brief about you and your business.
Yeah, where do I start? I was born just outside of Chicago, grew up in northern Indiana, and I went to Notre Dame undergraduate. After Notre Dame, I went out to Wall Street in New York, worked in investment banking for a couple of years, went to Chicago, kind of following the standard path of somebody that goes into banking and going into private equity after that at a firm called Madison Dearborn Partners, where I invest in a lot of software and services businesses. And then pursued my MBA at Harvard. After that, I joined a startup, and that was kind of my first foray into early stage startup where I am today. That startup that I joined, Equity, I was the first employee. It's a company that's based here in Austin. That's what brought me to Austin. A digital mortgage startup, Y Combinator backed, still doing very, very well despite a lot of the headwinds over the last few years. And I spent 3.5 years there, and I left in March of 23 to start Abode. Um, the Abode is a financial manager for homeowners. And so the impetus for Abode was a personal experience. Now, I worked for a mortgage company, so I saw how broken a lot of the financial elements of home buying and home ownership are. And then when I bought my first home with my now wife here in Austin in July of 2021, um, it was a very overwhelming experience, as I think it is for everyone. And when you go through the closing process, you sign up for a lot of recurring costs. It's primarily mortgage, but that's only 50% of your monthly cost of owning a home. The other 50% are things like property taxes, home insurance, energy costs, private mortgage insurance for some. Um, and as somebody who's analytical and was running finance for a mortgage company, I wanted to optimize these costs and lower them. And it was very difficult. And I tell people I've made $10,000 worth of mistakes since owning my home over the last 3 years because I didn't optimize these things. I think people think of these costs, these non-mortgage costs of homeownership in one of two buckets. Either they have no idea they can optimize them from year to year, or they think there's way too much friction to doing so. And so Abode is really built to address both of those issues. We make it really easy for homeowners to save money on these non-mortgage costs. And we say 60 seconds of onboarding allows us to pull in a whole bunch of data, get some permission from you, and then we take it from there.
Wow. That is incredible. And I mean, I just think about all the pain points. Many of my friends have purchased homes and have had so much stress just based on like those additional costs or even anything that goes into the home ownership. So I think that's an incredible service that you're providing. So you kind of dove into, homeowners are your target market. Is there a specific homeowners? Are you looking at like first time homeowners, or is there like how would I know if I like walked in your doors that I would be a great fit for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because um, we probably play best with new first time homeowners, people that are incredibly unfamiliar with these costs that come with owning a home. It's also that audience is also more digitally native, using other personal finance apps out there, and so maybe more accustomed to working with something like Abode.
Mhm.
But that being said, we can serve any homeowner, and we have a lot of homeowners that are 55 to 70 years old that just hate paying property taxes, especially in places like Texas where they're very expensive. Um, so while maybe we tailor the marketing and the messaging towards new homeowners, first time homeowners, we can help anybody. And the platform is easy enough to use. I mean, that's really where our focus is, easy enough to use and onboard that it doesn't take much to really understand how to onboard and then for us to give you value.
That's really powerful too. Well, thank you for sharing about that. You know, talking about Abode as the company, what does your kind of role day to day look like? And is it just you in the company, or are you building a team right now?
Yeah, I have a lean team. So we have two engineers and a head of growth, and then myself. And day to day, it's a cliche answer, but there is no day to day. It is, I call it embracing the chaos. We're all just basically building week to week.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's a difficult question for me to answer since there's always a new initiative. We try to stay focused. I think we've gotten a lot of traction really early, which we're very fortunate for.
Mhm.
1,000 users launched just in April of this year. But there's so much opportunity. I think we startups don't die from anything more than indigestion. I'm quoting somebody else, but at the same time, we do have to focus on execution. And so we are we're focused on onboarding new users and we're focused on building more products to help them save money. Um, and credit to my engineering team, they can move incredibly quickly so we can build these things very fast, which we've been doing.
Definitely. And would you say with the company right now, do you have any other like competitors on the market, or kind of what's that look like for you?
We have competitors. I say Abode is a horizontal solution on top of homeownership, and most of home finance is dominated by vertical solutions, like an insurtech company or an energy company or a mortgage company or a home maintenance company. And we may compete tangentially with some of those verticals, but I don't think that there's anything that is that horizontal layer that takes a holistic approach. So I candidly wouldn't say we have any direct competitors, at least not yet.
That's very cool too. Well, thanks for sharing about that. And kind of as you grow, as you're kind of putting the word out about Abode out there, what is one thing you wish people knew more about your business?
It's a good question. I always say one of our biggest challenges is cutting through the noise of a whole bunch of other people that are probably marketing towards homeowners and home buyers. The reality is um, there's so much money to be made on the homeowner since it's a lot of money. There's $2.4 trillion of home spend every year in the US.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of people that are interested in getting that attention. And while it's very regulated, they can still say things that maybe we're also saying, except we're more effective. But anybody in reality could say, you might be eligible to save $800 on your home insurance. Geico and Allstate and the like say that all the time. So that's an example of how we need to find a way to cut through the noise that people are used to hearing, because they're not only used to hearing it, but they're also pretty used to being bait and switched or just disillusioned in general from those types of marketing tactics. So really, it is very easy to onboard onto Abode. We have a pretty high conversion rate once we get your attention, but getting your attention is definitely a challenge because it's not easy to tell you in a space um, that exists in a few pixels the size of your phone screen why Abode is different.
Mm. Mm. That is powerful. And that kind of leads me perfectly into our next series of questions, which is around marketing and kind of how you're putting yourself out there and growing your company. So I like to ask the question, to business owners, especially when you're finding success in your marketing, what are some of the methods you've been finding success in marketing your business?
Yeah, I think two things. One, the value that we can provide is very easily quantifiable in the money that we save homeowners. And we have a wedge into that audience by telling them, hey, you may be overpaying, enter in your address, and we will tell you exactly how much we estimate you're overpaying by. So that psychological curiosity gap is something that, it's the reason why you like to go on Zillow and see your Zestimate, because you're always curious, especially when it's dollars and cents are the subject, to see what that number is. That's one way. The other is by just playing into the emotional appeal. People don't like the fact that their taxes have been rising by 10, 20, 30% over the last several years. Same thing with insurance. Insurance is becoming more and more expensive for a lot of reasons right now, and people are getting frustrated and they feel stuck. And so, kind of playing into that emotional element, like, hey, we can help you fight back against these rising costs. Has we've seen some success there as well.
That's a really good tactic too. Even thinking about this as like I think about the future of myself buying a home. I'm like putting you in the back of my mind now for sure as
Yeah.
someone to contact. Also kind of along the marketing route are you currently using like an SE or not an SEO, a CRM to kind of organize your clients and the people you work with?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, we're 5 or 6 months old, so we use a platform called Retool, and then we have we send emails via Customer IO. So if that's a CRM, then yes, I mean, we house all of the data that we pull in both publicly and privately
Mhm.
um, in a quasi CRM. It wouldn't fit in a standard CRM the way that you might be talking about it, like a HubSpot or a Salesforce or anything like that. Um, I think one thing that we need to focus on over the next few months is re-engagement of our users. Right now, the way that Abode is built, you could actually engage with us once and then never really have to engage with us again because we're kind of put on autopilot where we can, once we have that initial information and your permission, we can go work on your behalf. But we do still think it's important to re-engage you from time to time, albeit these things are less frequent than maybe a home, like a personal finance app or something like that. But at the same time, we want to try to engage our users as well. We haven't had time to kind of focus on that so much as customer acquisition.
Definitely. Well, that's really incredible too, because it kind of is like building that community around your business and you're bringing your, you know, engagement to clients. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is people love to talk about home. So this is not something that we have really capitalized on to the extent that I think we could. But when we were testing, we sent out some social media posts just to see what people's reaction would be. And one of them went viral. That's how we kind of got validation for the idea. We got 1 million impressions on social media over the course of 24 hours through a post.
Wow.
There was a gamified element to it we were testing out. So we're thinking about things like that. Can you gamify homeownership to a degree? But the reality is, I think people, especially that own homes, they have neighbors, people that are neighborly, like to say, "Hey, I have this new thing. It's really cool. It helps you save money. You don't have to do much. It's really easy, et cetera, et cetera." If we can play on that sort of ethos, that will be very powerful.
Definitely. And yeah, homeownership is a fun topic. Like it's something like people are really interested in, even if they don't own yet, or if they're kind of like they're kind of like tipping into that. So that's super cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, we've talked a lot about marketing, so I'd like to dive into a little deeper on you and kind of your why. You mentioned the story, the pain points you experienced, but I'd really like to dive into what kind of prompted you to become a business owner, as opposed to working for somebody else, and what was that transition like for you?
Um, I kind of made that decision when I jumped into startup. When I left HBS, I joined Up Equity, first employee, and I worked very closely with the CEO there, who was great, who taught me a lot, Tim Herman. Um, and ultimately, I think it's about the impact that I can make. I wanted to build a company, and I wanted to attach my name to something that I thought was mission driven and helping people out like myself. I mean, it's helpful that it comes from a pain point that I experienced, and I'm building something that obviously I would use. But it also feels good that I'm helping a lot of people out with their most expensive asset where they spend most of their money year to year. Um, and that feels good, and it feels good to be able to help out a lot of my peers that are also in the same phase of life, buying a home, starting a family, because the reality is these things are expensive, but you don't pay attention to them. And given a lot of macroeconomic factors that are headwinds for Americans today, it feels good to be able to help them fight back, to be able to help put a few extra $1,000 in their pocket every year.
Definitely. I think what you're doing is incredible, especially you think of young families or just they're just trying to start. And today, with homes being so expensive and there's so many things to kind of find ways to cut those costs is incredible. So, yeah, thank you for sharing about that. And, kind of looking at your journey, I know it's been about 6 months, but what is some memorable like roadblock or hurdle that you maybe faced early on that you overcame?
There's a myriad. But at the same time, like I think you, when you start a company, I think one thing that people that haven't started companies or been part of the first 4 or 5 employees of is it's very difficult to start something from nothing, from absolute nothing, because not only is it difficult to stand things up, but there's also infinite paths that you could potentially chart out for yourself in order to accomplish a singular goal. So there's a lot, but one that has been particularly challenging has been the regulatory environment, right? We're operating across property tax, insurance, and energy, each regulated by different entities on a state by state basis. And that presents a lot of challenges to figure out the right business model to navigate as a startup in all three of these spaces. We've found a way to do that. We've probably spent more money on legal and business insurance than most companies of our size to do so. But the benefit of that is that I've heard this from investors, I've heard this from potential partners that we're working with, is that regulation is somewhat of a defensibility, is somewhat of a moat to getting into this space. It's hard. You need to understand intimately the regulation so that you can operate within the framework, but still find innovative ways to do so.
Yes, the learning curve is probably tremendous. And I think that's really cool that you're like getting and pushing to grow your business and do those things. Yeah, this has been such an insightful conversation. It's been so fun to just hear about you, hear about your business. And I'd really like to dive into a fun Q&A section, which is our headline, or it's our rapid fire questions. I lost my words there, but yes, our
Yeah,
rapid fires.
I'm
So,
ready.
all right, let's rock and roll. First question is, what is a key to success for you?
Knowing that things are not always going to be linear. I call it embracing the chaos of startup. It's not glamorous. You got to find a way through.
Very true. What is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Um, Knowing that not every success story you see out there, especially the permeation of everybody else's successes on places like LinkedIn and social media. Um, there's probably a lot beneath the surface that you're not seeing, and it's never linear. I think it's something where you can present the pretty surface level story to people, but knowing that most founders, most companies, businesses are going through challenges and could probably have died at multiple stages of that journey.
Definitely. What is one book or piece of content, anything that you've taken in most recently?
Um, the Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz is probably a startup Bible at this point, because I think he does take the vantage point of all of the things that go wrong and how to address them, because that is kind of 90% of the experience and not just here's the success playbook. It's a great read. I've read it multiple times at this point.
That's been recommended to me a couple times now, so I think I got to
Or
put that on my list.
it's a great read. Yeah, it's very direct, it's very honest.
I like that. And the final question is, if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly improve one aspect of your business overnight, what would it be?
Our marketing and messaging, to the point I made earlier, cutting through the noise is hard, and I don't think we've nailed it yet. We've seen some success, but continuous iteration on that front.
Well, definitely. Well, this is your opportunity. Let's get the word out about your business. How can people find you?
Yeah, our company's called Abode. Our website is ownabode.com, ownabode.com. And again, it takes 60 seconds to onboard. You're only paying if we save you money. So it's a pretty easy decision to make, and we can save you thousands of dollars if you give us a little bit of information.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for sharing about your business. For our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
Oh, wow. That's maybe the hardest question that you've asked yet. Again, I think it's just about being able to build a company, attach your name to something that you're proud of that also makes a difference in people's lives. Owning a home is the cornerstone of the American dream. So whether that's helping people buy a home or helping people make homeownership more affordable, both are becoming more challenging in today's environment. So if we can address that in a small way or a big way, that's what keeps me going.
Powerful words. Well, Tyler, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you again for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a great time. Great to meet you.